So Rode has finally released their newest beta software for the RodeCaster Pro II, and I do believe that they have finally taken one step closer to making this the ultimate device for streaming. So let's take a look. So this is the beta version 1.0.8, meaning that some things can still change with the actual release. And if you want to join the beta program for Rode, I have left a link down in the description below where you can actually do that, and it is 100% free to join. So the newest update now has the ability to have submixes, and apart from having custom routing, it allows you to change the volume of what each source hears independently and what volume they actually hear it at. Now this is great as it allows you to set the volumes for your streams, recordings, and your podcasts all separately from the audio that you will be hearing or what other sources will be hearing as well. So for example, if you are a streamer, you may want your voice, your music, and your game to be the loudest parts of your stream so that people actually viewing your stream can hear you clearly, can hear your game clearly, and can hear your music clearly. And then of course have your teammates a little bit lower than that because you don't want your teammates to actually take over your entire stream. But then in your headset, you actually want your music to be soft, your game to be loud, you might want your own voice to be low, and then of course have your teammates high so you can actually hear the callouts that they are making. And that is exactly what submixes allow you to do. So to access the submixes, all you need to do is actually go into your settings, and then from there you go to outputs, and then you go to routing, and now you will see that the routing tab actually looks a little bit different as you now have 2 rows instead of the 1 row that you used to have before the update. So in the first row, we have all 4 of our headsets as well as the monitor. And if you actually click on any of those, then you will be greeted with all of your audio sources as well as this sort of fader with all of the volumes that they're actually set at. So how this works when you just open it up is you'll actually see the position where the fader is set currently, and that is sort of the volume that everybody's hearing. And if you want to change that, all you need to do is actually click on this little tic-tac icon over there. Once it turns green, you then use this dial knob to actually change the volume. So I'm just drastically going to change it for this example. And as you can see, now this is the new position of what that audio source is going to be hearing for that source. And then below that is still where the fader is at. Now this is where it gets really interesting. As you'll see below the fader, you actually have this sort of icon which looks like a chain. And if you press the icon, you'll see it cycles between the chain. It's sort of a chain that is broken. And then of course, also the X. Now what this means is if we actually go back and change the volume once again, this means that these are now locked and they're actually linked to one another. So if you start actually changing the volume of the fader, you'll see that the volume changes with that in sort of a linear manner. So what you'll be hearing in headset 1 will be softer, but it will be softer linked according to the fader. Secondly is going to be the broken chain, which means that these two are no longer linked. So the volume that you set on the actual fader for that output will no longer be linked to the actual fader itself. So as you can see, as I move the fader over there moves, but the volume does not change at all. Now this can be great if you want the volume of that source to remain unchanged, even once you change the faders for something else. So let's say you want the volumes of your recordings to have a certain output, then you can have those be locked for the recording output and have them be unchanged no matter what you do on the faders itself. So if you're streaming and recording separately, then you can have your fader set to, let's say, unify for your recordings, and then just for your streams be able to control the volume using the faders, but then your recordings that will always remain the same. And then lastly is of course going to be the X, and that means that you're actually excluding that audio source from that output. So let's say, for example, you don't like hearing your own voice, which is going to be, of course, the mic on number 1. Then you can just remove it completely from your headphones, meaning that you'll never hear yourself talking, which can be great for some people. And then, of course, if you don't want to hear something like your music or your Bluetooth, then, of course, you can also remove those sources as well. And then if we move to the bottom row, you'll see that these are all the sources that you were used to with the standard routing tab. And if you actually go into those, you'll see that you still have the ability to have it set to main mix, mix minus, but then if you actually go into custom, you get the same sort of menu that you do when you actually go to the outputs in the first row. This now opens up so many possibilities for streaming and content creation in general using the RodeCaster Pro II, as this now gives you complete control over your audio for your productions, for every audio source on all of your outputs, and your headphones. And what's great is you can set all of these volumes directly from your PC using the Rode Central app as well. There are still a few features that I'm waiting for them to release on the RodeCaster Pro II, but let me know down in the comment section below what you think of this feature and how they actually implemented it. Is there something that you would want them to change about this? And is there something that you're still waiting for them to add to the RodeCaster Pro II? And then, as always, until next time, cheers.